Traveling with the wrong surfboards can really ruin a surf trip. So today I'm going to break down my 4-board quiver that I have for my Philippines travel journey. The Philippines is rich in waves and has all types of waves. So I brought along a 4-board quiver that can handle anything from little peelers through to big beach breaks. I'll show you which ones I brought and why, and I'll also share with you which one I would take if I could only pick one of these 4 boards. First up is my 9'4" bronze whaler. This is a 4-stringer traditional style log. I'm using a wax head 10-inch fin from FCS. This is a heavy board. It's 9'4", 23 by 3. It has a very relaxed rocker. You can see it's chunky with pulled in rails. It's like, basically from the 60s. It is heavy. I ended up buying this board because where I surf, sometimes it could be just ankle high or 1 foot. And if it's like that for a week, you actually want to go and catch a wave. So this will paddle onto the smallest of waves. It also lets you have that glide. And it's really good if you've been surfing for a few days and you're just a bit tired and you want something cruisy, even if it's 1 foot. And so that's where this board fits in the quiver. But of course, if this was the only board you had, it would be a problem. It's the most difficult of all these boards to travel with. It is quite difficult to handle when the waves get bigger. I've surfed this in 4 or 5 feet, and you really have to be a very good longboard rider to ride these in bigger waves. And I prefer to be able to duck dive and get under whitewash. So for that reason, I've got a few other boards in the quiver. Let's have a look at the next board, which is the one I pull out, want to go really fast, and when the waves are starting to come in super big. For pumping waves, I love this Moonstone. It's one of the largest moonstones that they'd ever made when I ordered this, and it's a swallowtail with a channel bottom. This one is 8'2" by 21 1/4, 2 3/4. I mean, it's got these beautiful Ryan Lovelace True Aims keels. It's fantastic in a point break. And the point break I like to surf this one on has got quite fat waves and you have to paddle quite hard to get into them. I've surfed these waves in smaller boards and not being able to get into them. Once you get on the wave, this board, obviously you're riding it more down the middle and the back. You get into a cruise mode, you can get right down the back and turn it. It does not, though, love tiny waves. It doesn't love 1 foot, 2 foot waves, so it is a bit limiting in terms of the wave range that you want to ride it on. It's also not really designed for nose riding. This is more of a step-up board. It has a surprisingly flat rocker for its size, because generally these fish used to be ridden quite small. But that's what makes it so fast. And if you get a fat wave or a big wave, it's really like an unbeatable feeling. So it is an incredible board in the top end of the wave range. But for more everyday conditions and to give you a lot more versatility and for the easiest to travel with, that's why you really need a regular size fish in the quiver. So let's have a look at that. All right, here's my fish. This is a performance style fish. Obviously the wider tail, the outline, that Liz fish flavor, but it has a very performance bottom. It has a super deep concave. If you were to have a look at this board, you can see it's got this concave running right through here. And that's because it comes from Performance Stable. It's a Smith Shapes. It was shaped by Graham Smith, but with a lot of input from Geordie Smith. Now I'm a bigger rider. I'm about 97 kilograms and 6'2". This board is actually in a 6'5", 21 1/2 by 3, 44.95 litres. Let's call it 45 litres. I love this board. It's been ridden 40 or 50 times. It's going a little bit yellow, and that's because it's travelled a lot. This board's been from Sydney to Queensland and then across to the Maldives, to Thailand, and now in the Philippines. So it's really done a tour of duty. And I take it to these places because you can surf this board in anything from less than 1 foot, and the biggest waves I've surfed it on about 6 or 7 feet in a special break in the Maldives. And it was pretty wild, but it can handle it. It's an amazing board, super underrated. I bought it from Board Cave The story is I actually bought some wax and they sent me a coupon to get some money off a board, and they said you could buy a Smith Shapes, and I'm like, what's a Smith Shape? But anyway, I bought it. From memory, it was about $600 or $700 about 3 or 4 years ago. It works beautifully with these Wild Things keels, which are pretty much the exact same template as a Captain Fin keel or a Michael February Captain Fin shape. I know they've now gone to Futures and that's a different fin shape, but it wants a fair bit of fin. It can handle bigger fins. I've surfed it with smaller fins, but this is the perfect fin. And it's light, so it travels very well on the bicycle. You can also take it on a plane or put it in a car, much easier than any of the longer boards. I mean, I'm so impressed. I actually bought an Album Lightbender to replace this, but I think this is actually better. It's a little more pointy in the nose. It is extremely fast and very easy to handle. I love this board. So it is the board that I think if I could only have 2 boards, I would take this board and the other Swallowtail. That covers you from small waves to very big waves, and you're having the most fun. They're both twin fins. But the next board is the board you would take if you could only have 1 board, and that's because it's so versatile. Let's have a look at that one. And here it is. This is probably the best 1-board travel quiver. It is a Mitch Sermon Dark Void. It's the second one I bought because the first one was so good. The first one was 6.6 and it works beautifully in a huge wave range, but this works in an even bigger wave range. You could ride it in ankle size waves up to well overhead. I've surfed this in my local breaks at Noosa on the biggest waves I can find. I've taken it to the Maldives. When I came from the Maldives to the Philippines, I left it here because if you only have 1 board you can take, you're going to take this. That rounded channel bottom pin here is going to work in such a good wave range. It's also very user friendly. There's nothing sharp to bump yourself into. These channels go all the way up to the middle of the board, and if you saw my channel video, you'll notice it just slots in and you can feel it boost when it hits those channels. It's got a pretty relaxed rocker. It doesn't really have any concave. It's sort of slightly rolled into flat, and that means that it's not doing anything tricky. It doesn't have a lot of difficulty on the wave. When you're getting up to speed, it just keeps going faster and faster. It's quite heavy. It's well glassed. There's a lot of glass going on here. And the fins I'm using are my absolute favorite. You've probably seen these in my twin fin video. It's the SAW G10 MMBT. These are G10 construction. They're halfway between an upright and a keel. Because it's got the channels, because it has a pulled in tail, this hybrid keel is absolutely dynamic in this board. It's one of the greatest innovations I find in this keel. Look at the detail on that leash loop there. This board was made to last. So I have a feeling this board's going to be in the Philippines quiver for a very long time. So if I could only take 1 board, it would be this board. If I could take 2, then of course, if I could only take 2 boards, then I'm going to take the Fish and the bigger Fish, because these 2 here are an epic combo. They also travel well. Interestingly, you can see all my boards are starting to go a bit yellow, and that's because it's so hot here. It's constantly over 30 degrees Celsius all year long. If you put them somewhere and they get warm, then they're going to go yellow. The Sermon actually is held up better than all of them. It's just a testimony to the construction. But I'm wondering, what's in your travel quiver? Have you got any secret, special magic boards that you've discovered that have been particularly good? If you only could take 1 or 2, which ones are in your quiver?